The people who are the most immune to manipulation. They used to be the easiest targets in the room. They were taking advantage of it over and over again until they finally got sick of it. They studied precisely what was being done to them, and now the same tactics toxic people used on them don't even get close. So stay around, because in today's video, I'm going to show you the 7 behaviours to implement that will make you immune to manipulation. If you start practicing them consistently, I promise you anyone who tries to manipulate you won't stand a chance, because you will spot their tactics the exact second they start. Let's get into it. The first one, you need to trust your own data rather than toxic people's opinions. Let me ask you something. Do you actually know who you are? Or do you just easily accept what toxic people try to tell you about yourself? To make yourself completely bulletproof to manipulation, you need to ruthlessly map out your own triggers, your non-negotiable values, and exactly what you will and won't tolerate from others. You need to map your own strengths and weaknesses like a blueprint. Let me explain you why. When a toxic person tells you that you're stupid, lazy, too sensitive, or maybe not good enough, the manipulation only works if some part of you isn't sure they're wrong. Think about that. If someone walks up to me today and tells me I'm always doing things wrong, I won't get defensive. You might ask, why? Because always means all the time, and I have the data that I need to know. I know for a fact I do some things wrong, but there is a mountain of things I do right. I don't feel the low-level need to prove anything to them, so their words just bounce off. But if I lacked that self-knowledge, if I was already starting from a place of uncertainty, if they told me I'm overly sensitive or imagine things, and I would then secretly wondered whether I'm too sensitive, that uncertainty is the crack in the armour. That is exactly where they get in. People who can't be manipulated have built their self-knowledge long before an enemy tries to use it against them. They trust their own data more than they trust the opinion of someone who only sees what they want to see, not who they truly are. So develop a habit of a deep self-awareness, especially when you are in contact with toxic people. How do you react after arguing them, or when they try to tell you something about you that is not true? Because if you don't, they will do it for you and use it against you. And once they do, their next move is to catch you before you even notice what's happening. And this is where the next behaviour comes in. You must learn to observe before you even think about responding to them. Because let me tell you, toxic people need one thing from you: your immediate reaction. They want to see you angry and frustrated, because for them, your emotional reaction is an instant confirmation of what they are doing works. It's proof they still have control over you. So you need to be faster than your own reactions. And the people who are truly immune to manipulation have trained themselves to get comfortable with the pause, to stop and observe first before you say a single word. Because let me tell you, if you react instantly the moment they say something rude to you, you are predictable. And if you are predictable, you are easy to control. But when you learn to pause and observe, the game changes. While they are waiting for you to explode, you are doing something they never expected. You're studying them like a scientist. You start looking for the glitches in their act. You notice that their voice sounds mean, but their eyes look scared. You spot that silly little smirk on their face when they think they have upset you. When you stop reacting and start watching, you win. Because you aren't the victim anymore who reacts to their rudeness. You're the judge watching them fail their own test. But hear me out, because observing is the first step of the operation. You can be the best observer and watching for manipulation signs, but if your blood starts boiling and you lose your cool, you've already lost the game. That's why your next behaviour comes in. You must master your emotional responses. Let me tell you why. Your emotion reaction mastery is one of the most difficult skills you would have to develop to stay immune to manipulation, because that's the only one thing that toxic people crave like a drug: your emotions. So if you see those people trying to guilt trip you, shame you, every tactic they use is a carefully designed strategy to get your emotional response before you even start thinking about it. Because the moment you are in an intense emotional state, your blood boiling, you feel that tension in your chest. Your emotional responses belong to whoever triggered those feelings. Understand that a toxic person will provoke you on purpose so you say something you might regret, but it doesn't matter for them, as long as you will explode, and they would use that against you. So they can play the victim and make you a terrible person, like you are the problem. So it's not about being a robot with no feelings. No, people who can't be manipulated, they feel their feelings, their anger, but they stay in control of their emotions, like they build an invisible wall between the feelings and their reactions. And that's what separates reacting in the moment and responding. And that gap, you can train it. Every time a rude person tries to manipulate you by saying you did something wrong just to get something from you, feel that heat in your chest and that instant urge to defend yourself. But give yourself a moment before responding. In that moment, use the 5-second rule. Literally count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that countdown is a circuit breaker for your brain. It stops your brain from exploding on the spot to responding with your logical brain. And hear me out, because once you are in control of your emotions, you can do the one thing manipulators hate most. You can finally hold a line they cannot cross. Because here is the thing, control over your emotional responses is useless if you don't have the right backbone to back it up. That's why you need to stay firm on your boundaries. Here's why so many people do wrong. They set boundaries the wrong way. They state a boundary they can't tolerate, someone pushes back, and then they start explaining to themselves why they set it that way. Understand the moment you explain your boundaries, you already lost the negotiation. People who can't be manipulated set boundaries that don't come with a question mark attached. Saying no is a complete sentence with zero room for debate. Because let me tell you, toxic people smell that uncertainty in your voice, and they see it a sign your boundaries might break under pressure. You must decide your boundaries in advance. Know exactly what you will and won't accept long before you ever get into a room with a toxic person. Because if you don't, in the heat of the moment or under pressure, your brain will try to rationalize it. So decide your non-negotiable boundaries and practice well in advance. Fifth, make peace with discomfort. Look, setting boundaries is easy when the other people would respect that. But we know toxic people won't. If you are afraid of confrontation, you are already a target. Because toxic people have a radar for people who will do anything to avoid tension. They look for the people who apologize when they did nothing wrong, or who change their mind so easily just to make the discomfort stop. So understand that the manipulator doesn't even need to be right. In fact, they are not. They just want you to be more afraid of a fight than they are. People who can't be manipulated have made peace with conflict. They don't go looking for it on purpose, but they don't stay away from it. They understand that conflict is simply the price of having your own boundaries, or opinions that other people won't tolerate. The moment a manipulator senses that you are not afraid of the tension, their strategy to trigger you so easily fails because they know they would have to work much harder to manipulate you. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But there is a deeper reason most people still struggle with this, and it comes down to one behavior you need to implement. Learn to reject the need for approval. Manipulation only works when you explain yourself negotiating with a toxic person because deep down you need their approval. You need that confirmation you aren't the person they label you, but the moment you need someone to think well of you, you have handed them a power over you, and trust me, they will use it. People who are truly immune to manipulation have done the internal work. They know their own values. They act in ways that align with who they are. And when someone is mean to them, they accept that and don't try to change that. So understand that a manipulator's opinion of you is not a confirmation of your worth. You don't need to be liked by everyone, and especially not by people who are trying to use you. When you finally realize that their opinion of you is none of your business, the strings are cut. So everything we've already talked about leads to this final ultimate behavior. You need to refuse to play their game. You see, a manipulator's greatest fear isn't just a person who argues well. That's what they love it. Their real fear is someone who stops engaging completely. But people who can't be manipulated know that they don't have to respond to every single argument they are invited to. So understand, toxic people are not looking for your opinions or solutions to their problems. They want something from you so they would feel better about having control over you. And that's why the most powerful response is no response. Yes, set your boundaries confidently. Yes, master your emotional reactions so no one can pull you like a puppet. But above all, refuse to play their game. Because once you stop reacting and stop feeding their drama, you are leaving their game. If this helped you, drop a comment and tell me which behavior you're going to implement first. And if the damage has already been done, watch my last video, How to Make People Who Hurt You Regret It.